All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Theo here with the Mental Health Podcast. I have a special guest. I'm going to stop saying that. Everyone says that on podcasts. That's corny. But I have someone with me that I've been honestly, I've been eager to speak with you. I'm eager to have this conversation. This is probably the most fluid, the most comfortable interview I've probably had. When we did that pre-Zoom, I was like, you're one of two people that I was like, I want to talk to because I feel like this is going to be easy. I feel like it's going to be a real conversation.
Yeah.
But I got Mr. Christopher Blue here. I'm going to allow him, give him the due diligence to introduce himself, let the people know, I don't know, where you're from, your definitely the licensure, you know, what's your official title, what you work with, what people you work with, what are your interests, and what's your niche in mental health? Where are you looking to attack and heal in this industry, so to speak?
Right. My name is Felipe Christopher Blue. I'm a licensed clinical addiction specialist located in Durham, North Carolina. I work for an agency, but I also have a nonprofit called More Than Therapy. My background, my education was in clinical mental health counseling at Webster University. And I got into this just based on just seeing some of the gaps in service that people were getting, especially coming from where I come from. I always said I want to be what I would want to receive. That's what I try to accentuate myself to be. That's where I'm at. My population that I normally serve or that I particularly serve is pretty much the ones that are underserved. Though they may have Medicaid or no insurance at all, they don't necessarily get the services to adequately address their needs. A lot of them are culturally influenced in such a way that they utilize the services just for the case management function regarding housing and things like that. I try to break that cultural norm, I try to break that cultural discrepancy and to let them see a brighter day, that they don't have to depend on a system to be better, that they can be better, you know, through it all. You know what I'm saying? Connecting them to resources such as vocational rehabilitation, assisting them with applications for housing programs, letting them know that yesterday does not have to define today, and then doing it like that. And being a model citizen in that regards, that, you know, if I can do it, you can do it too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I with myself, when I started therapy and then decided to start this podcast, I was like, we aren't going to get better if somebody doesn't start and somebody doesn't show it. And you don't have to be perfect. Like, I was a big thing that I try to tell people, I'm not a coach. I'm not going to say I despise coaches. I don't want to say that. But I do have a natural aversion. I don't like, because majority of coaches have a negative connotation on this space. They kind of do, majority of them, I would say, they make this look bad. And for you professionals that do this and I talk to, they don't really do you guys any justice. But I try to make sure to tell people I'm an advocate. I'm in the advocacy. I'm just a testament to show you how I've been doing this 2 years and running. I'm still doing it. And it just made my life better. That's it. That's really why I created this podcast. That Mr. Floyd. But that's really the crux. But so first, to go on your next question is that seems like there is definitely a paywall, not a paywall, but a gap in finances and how our community, the Black community, can either find therapy or fund therapy. And so I talked to one other therapist, and the way she's gotten into it is she's a part of agencies that work with prisons. So it's a part of the prison industrial complex. So she spoke to how she's just backed up, and it's just people who are appointed to therapy and with these little 30-minute sessions that do nothing. And so how are you not infused, but in contract, I guess, with maybe the government? How does it work for you? I mean, I know you can't get into personal with people's workload or portfolios, so to speak, but are these people in I guess dire need of clinical help? Are they on the verge of anything, or they're just people who was appointed to come see you?
most people refer to me probably were coming off of a crisis, coming off of some type of trauma that might have impacted them. My nonprofit is located about 2 blocks down from a shelter, Urban Ministries. So some referrals come through there because they don't have insurance, but they need help. They need something. I have a program called SOAR, which helps people fast track them to getting Medicaid and getting SSI. So, I get a lot of referrals that way. As far as the agency that I work for, that's not part of my nonprofit. It's just referrals, from DSS, Department of Justice, things like that. Community-based referrals from other agencies, maybe. But a lot of them are just generational in regards to mental health. Like they might have already had it for a number of years, or their mom had it, or their parents had it, or somebody in their bloodline. So we see a lot of that too, generational mental health issues, generational addiction issues, things of that nature. That's the cycle I'm trying to break. I want to help people get to the point where they don't need me anymore. I want to work myself out of a job in that way.
Amazing. I think that's something, every time I hear that, so my own counselor, I should say, but she's a therapist. She can't be my therapist. When I heard her say that for the first time, and I'll say this forever, to me as a client or patient, it seemed weird because I always knew, I'll never say this, I always knew therapy isn't end all be all. No one person will be ultimately enlightened as a human being, but you'll always need to, it's about the everlasting journey to being better. But right. I think I've always heard every therapist say that, and I'm like, I really truly have a natural kindling, like a natural liking towards therapists. And when you guys say that, I'm like, I guess you guys really do have a love for it, because like, not just like it's your job and you need to get paid, but it's like, I don't know, people really do need help and people really need to be healed. I find that to be amazing that you're like, I've interviewed 4 people professionally. I think 3 of y'all, you being 3, have said the same thing. Like, I don't want people to come to me. I'm like, y'all might have a job though, but.
Oh, I know the work, it'll be here till I pass, I'm sure. But what I want people to get to the point where they don't necessarily need to see a therapist every week. They might need to see a therapist for a check-in here or there, If they have a significant mental health issue, if they're on their medication, they stay with that, check in with their therapist. Because, ultimately, even if the world was healed in such a way, and it's unlikely that it ever will be based on everything that we're going through now, I have other talents I can, fall back on. I like to write. I like to produce music. My sister, she has a film company, so I like to help her with, development of that and development of projects. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a photographer. I'm a videographer. So, there's other things that I can explore, other things my energy can go into, which I do still delve into those things as I explore different avenues of mental health, giving it more exposure, destigmatizing in some ways, or just putting more of a spotlight on things that impact us.
I was about to try to figure out how to jump into it, but perfect segue to destigmatizing. And so there's a couple of questions that I like to ask every therapist, because I've figured out that each of you all have a certain whatever the catalyst was to want to become a therapist. That's kind of like your niche. So some women may be abuse is their way. But anyway, stigma in the Black community. That's like one of my 3 or 4 pillars that this podcast stands on. Like, I'm trying to get people to know or figure out or just see that this isn't this or what you think it is. It could be simpler, in other ways it's more complicated, but it's as simple as you going to your doctor per year. Every woman has to go to doctor every year, or OBGYN. You should look at a therapist or a counselor or LMFT if you're married as the same thing, just someone you go to check on it, because your brain is still a part of your body, literally. Right. So it's something you gotta take care of. So as far as the Black community, for where you're at, let's make this regional. As far as where you're at in the Black community, what's the number one thing you're hearing for people around you that, if in personal life, work, that hasn't gone to therapy, what are they saying of why not, where are they not going? If to me, I need to stop doing that. Sometimes I think or would say, have you ever been to therapy? You ever thought of going to therapy? I think I need to stop doing that. But what are the things you're hearing people? Why won't they go to therapy? Why aren't even looking it up?
When I find that people are reluctant to get in therapy, I'm gonna say 9 times out of 10, the number one answer is cost. The inability to afford it readily. The fact that they believe that something they can deal with, that's a cost they don't have to necessarily accrue. Here where I'm from, for the most part, therapy is really expensive for people who have to pay out of pocket. Yeah, Medicaid, people on Medicaid, they get it for free on our tax dollars. But people who don't have it, who have Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna, or who don't have any insurance at all, the out-of-pocket costs are insurmountable. Let's just say it was at the bottom rung, $50. That's $50 that could have been applied to a water bill or going towards an electricity bill or internet bill. That's $50 that could pay for 2 to 3 days or more of food. You know what I'm saying? In many ways, they feel like, oh, I can deal with this. So it's just, I get through this, But you don't have to suffer alone. You can get help. But it's something they don't necessarily feel like it's an expense they don't have to necessarily take on, because we have so much other stuff we have to take care of. Most people I know living check to check. That $50 can be used towards something or more. I mean, I know therapists that charge $150, $175, $125, depending on what their specialty is or where they're located. I'll be honest, I make a pretty great salary. If I wasn't connected to the VA, I don't know if I would pay out of pocket for mental health therapy. I know because my insurance for my job, it doesn't adequately address it. The what do they call it? The out of pocket costs are crazy. Another reason that comes up regarding people, just they don't feel like they need it. It's been so culturally embedded in them to deal with their problems in their own homes, or like my mom and my grandmother used to say, pray about it, go to church about it. In some ways it's still so culturally embedded that they don't want to take those problems outside of the home to be judged. A lot of people feel like they won't find a therapist that can relate to them. They act as if there are not enough Black therapists out there. And maybe depending on what part of the country you're at, that might be true. They don't want to tell their problems and their issues to somebody who doesn't look like them or who understands their culture, where they feel they'll have to be explaining more than dealing with.
So I will attest to that. I'll be transparent.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mental health podcast. I had many professionals say they don't want the client to need them anymore. So I felt the wedge between me and my counselor happen. It was so weird. I have codependent issues with myself, to be honest. And when things happen, when a relationship that I actually care for and put effort and work into, when I feel that wedge, my anxiety goes through the roof. And so the last 4 or 5 sessions we had, she would say often, she was like, oh, if you ain't got nothing to talk about, it's fine, we don't have to talk. And then my anxiety would go crazy and I would just start talking to get to some point for the session to happen. But the last time we talked, she was just like, well, we don't always have to speak every week. I could be your therapist if you want to, but you could just check in. And she was just giving this separation speech, and I was just like, wow, this is it. And I'm looking for one now. And I'm a veteran, so I use the VA, and majority of it is just a list of like a whiteboard, white faces. And I just scrolled past them, and I was thinking the same thing, like, we only have an hour. This guy or lady may only have 30 minutes to an hour. If I spend 15 or 20 minutes to explaining to you natural things, the not even just the lingo, but yeah, the lingo, cultural aspects, references, I'm wasting my time here. Like, if I could just start talking, you pick up on my mechanisms and idiosyncrasies from my culture, we're not wasting time. We're not wasting, I got insurance, but we're not wasting money. So I'm on that. But anyway, more to the paywall, we could say.
Mhm.
And so I spoke with one other professional, and I think the first one I interviewed in Florida, he said there's a couple of not nonprofits, but he has an organization or something that's trying to fund kind of like a GoFundMe to pay people. But he's like, I still got to get paid. I got a life to live. And you said something about this sword. Is it
SOAR.
SOAR?
I forgot what it stands for, but it's basically somebody doesn't have insurance, but they might meet the qualifications of getting SSI because of a disability, either mental health or physical. And it's just basically an application where you fast track them to getting those benefits.
So could anyone? I like to give information on podcasts. So I assume that's something probably just in your vicinity. So
I think it's a North Carolina-based program.
So is it possible that not every state, we don't know, but would it be helpful, or could people just Google something to the effect of mental health nonprofit help you pay? Like, would you think there are every state or regions would have these things to give people resources, or is America not there yet with mental health?
I want to say, well, I don't know about America. I only know where I work, but I want to say that many states have programs to assist people who don't have medical insurance in order to address their mental health needs. Here in North Carolina, we have a program called IPRS. I do not know what it stands for some reason, but what it is state funds for people to get mental health. So they would, it allocates automatically 26 sessions per year for therapy, which is basically, if they went for a year, every 2 weeks. It allocates special funding for medication, special funding for psychiatry, things like that. I'm not sure, if other states have it. I know where I came from, South Carolina, before I came to North Carolina. And South Carolina didn't have anything quite like that, though they did have programs that could help people get mental health help. But that was only if you had bipolar or schizophrenia.
Whew, yeah. I think that's pretty much it for me. It has to be something severe. It has to be like you're like a risk to something or someone, and like, oh, we'll get in now. But to the people out there listening, just it's the information age. Google financial help without insurance, mental health help, nonprofit or something.
Google's really good about it. Like you put like free mental health help around me or near me, boom, some stuff will pop up, or cheap or low cost, depending on what your keywords are, something to pop up. Like if you're in my area, and if you're in downtown Durham, if you put like that, my agency pops up, my nonprofit will pop up.
Nice. Okay, so let's get into the crux. We did with the paywall. Let's get into our issues. Mm-hmm. So this is a men's podcast about our mental health, hyper focused on Black men. Mm-hmm. So I want to give you the chance to, in a short form, I always tell each therapist, I'm not anyone's safe space, so you don't have to go too interpersonal. 100% up to you. But I think it could be a great testament. People watching the show, therapists are humans. Right. Some of them are dealing with their own stuff. What's your relationship with mental health before you decided to be a professional? What was the decision, if it happened, if there's an instance or something that happened that made you be like, okay, this is my life's work? And what's your licensure, and what is your quote unquote niche, I guess you could say, in mental health? What are you naturally inclined to try to help in people, so to speak?
Okay. My mother, undiagnosed with bipolar, way into her 40s. So, my siblings and I grew up in a family with a mother with an erratic mood, you know what I'm saying? Highs and lows. When she was high, when she had the highs, fun, just fun. But not necessarily addressing the needs of her children. But when she had her lows, her depression symptoms, still not able to appropriately address the needs of her children. Her children went into different directions. The boys got into the gangs. The daughters messing with older men to get their attention from there. My sister, you know what I'm saying, became severely depressed at times, high suicidal ideation, hospitalized 1 or 2 times, ran away consistently, addiction issues. Um, when I escaped that environment, when I moved out on my own, moved up north, messed around and got into gang involvement. Then I brought my brother up. Well, he came up because he was having issues down south with my mom, just like I had. And more gang involvement. And he got killed. He was murdered at 18. And that those 2 years after that were just kind of real blurry. I got into real deep addiction issues, severe mental health issues, hospitalized once or twice. This was really off the rails. Some criminal stuff came up, some crime, some court stuff came up. It all worked out. Somebody reached back, pulled me out of the fire, and I was able to get my mind back on track. Started going to school, but mental health, being a therapist was never, ever in the game plan. I never thought about doing this in my entire life. But then I started going to college, and I was taking courses like philosophy and things like that, and I found them so interesting. But my degree was in business. And I just thought it was so boring. And I was like, how the hell am I going to do this for the rest of my days? I just can't. But people are dynamic. People are different. Even if you're dealing with the same type of caseload with the same diagnosis, each one of them have a different story and a different way that they're approaching their mental health. And I said, you know what? I want to get into human services. I want to get into mental health. And that's what I did. Went to a school in South Carolina called Trident Technical College, where I pursued a degree, associate's degree in public services. So, it's like, giving to the community and things like that. I immediately transitioned to Springfield College, in which I pursued a degree in human services. And after that, I transitioned to Webster University, where I pursued a degree in clinical mental health counseling and marriage and family counseling. I had a couple jobs while I was in school that was related to mental health, group homes, one for people that were sexually acting out or had people sexually act out on them. That was a very high level group home, but like inpatient program. Decided that was never the population I would want to work with again. Schools, different schools, doing different type of counseling jobs at schools. And when I was in my master's program, worked at vocational rehabilitation, worked at DSS, but I felt that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. And then one of the homies, saying she was in North Carolina, she was working for a company called Youth Villages, where she was doing multi-systemic therapy. She told me how to present in the online phone interview. They called me up for an interview. Boom, the rest was history. Here I am as a licensed clinical addiction specialist, doing my best work. I'll be pursuing what's now called a licensed clinical mental health counseling certification licensure this year. One of my greatest deficits is procrastination. Doubting myself, not believing enough in myself to get it done. So when I work with clients, a lot of times I get a lot of work done because I walked in many of their shoes in different ways.
I can attest to procrastination. So I went to college in 2010, but I had to drop out. And so from 2011 or 12 up until 2016, I was just working dead-end jobs, trying to figure it out. And then it just hit me. My mom used to always drill on me ever since I hit 18. Ever since I was considered to be an adult. She was like, you need to go in the Army. You need to go in the Army. Because I'm a military brat. My uncle's Army, my dad's Navy. So this is all she knew. And she's like, this is security. You need to do this. No matter what you do, if you just stay in the Army 20 years, you'll be secure. So I naturally, as parents try to press up on you and not try to let you live life and just not just figure it out, but try to at least let you, tighten your own reins, take your own destiny to your own hands. I was like, forget that. I can do college on my own. I was being hard-headed, being the idiot's son. And then it just hit me. I'm like, man, who cares if it was her idea? Who cares if she was telling me? How am I going to get this degree? Am I gonna get it on my own by filling out loans and being 6 figures in debt? Nah, that's stupid. Wake up. I started losing weight, went inside in the army. Now I can get my degree, my bachelor's. Free ski. But anyway.
There you go.
So the last bit you talked about, your own personal issues, your own dealings with mental health, and you having to counsel other people. And so I think this is very particular. And whether or not we stay a long time on this, I think this is a great portion of this podcast to help people that are coming to therapy understand what the relationship between the client therapist is, how it can be, what you can get from it, what therapists go through, whether or not they have their own mental health dealings, just they have their own personal life.
Right.
And so, once again, not your safe space. You can skip over whatever you want, so to speak. When you say you dealt, you said you dealt with procrastination, but you deal with some other things. And so, dealing with clients and their own things, what are those things that you are dealing with? How have you found it difficult in your journey to becoming licensed and getting to the point of having to speak to people with some of the similar issues or their own mental health issues?
Well, like I said before, I was heavily involved in gangs at one time. So I have some post-traumatic stress disorder related to some of the things that I've seen and done while in gangs, as well as some of the things I saw and did in the military. Addressing some of the PTSD symptoms, of course, was probably some of my addiction traits, drowning it, numbing it. So, that was an issue. My mental health diagnosis is bipolar 2, which means like you have manic spells, but you mainly have depression. So I currently see a therapist and I see a psychiatrist through the VA. I was seeing a private therapist outside of the VA who I really, really made progress with, who held me accountable, gave me action plans and things like that. I found that my VA therapist isn't the same caliber of clinician. So I'm actively looking for another therapist. You don't marry your therapist. So if you get a therapist, you don't have to stay with them or stick with them. You got to find your best fit.
Much like a regular doctor. I was about to say, mine, the reason why I had the anxiety with mine, I felt like it was part of my codependency. So I have a relationship with my mom really isn't where it should be, right? What's ever normal or functional within the nuclear family, it isn't that. Definitely isn't that. And so my counselor and therapist was a middle-aged African-American woman who was Christian. So it was perfectly aligned. Like, I was looking up to her in different ways of just not just therapy, of like, I could tell, honestly, I was just looking for like, not just approval, but for a lot of I'm proud of you moments. Like, I just didn't get that from my mom. Intellectually, I understand that's what I'm searching for, but I just wasn't getting it. And I'm not at the point just to speak to my mom and have that conversation. So my therapist was feeding me in a different way, in another way that I needed to. And she was an intellectual, like she has a master's degree working on her PhD. So I could have all different kinds of conversations with this lady and feel like I'm being fed, like this void is being filled. And that's a whole nother reason. And that's why I say it's funny where every therapist is like, we don't want y'all to. It's like, I don't know, just for me as a client, like you said, if you don't marry to them, but once you find that one that you can click and the void is starting to heal, it's like, let me at least get to a point where it's like, not like this, but like this, and then I can. I felt like it was just too early for me personally. But anyway, so with that being said, with your own personal issues, do you feel, so you are currently getting help and looking for better help, so to speak. Yeah. And so that's kind of like a triple dynamic. Like, not only are you dealing with your own issues, you're going through therapy and then trying to provide help to other people. And so how's that work-life balance? How do you not let one bleed into the other? And not just like, how's your workflow for one? And then mentally, how are you compartmentalizing from leaving a session, then having to prep for a session to be the therapist? You know what I'm saying?
I find that anybody who works in this field, especially at the level that I work at, it's in their best interest to have therapy. You're dealing with a lot of people's stuff, you know what I'm saying? Significant traumas, significant crises, significant issues that you take home with you and you document, so you relive again. I don't think it's in anybody's best interest to not have therapy if they're a clinician or a therapist or a psychiatrist. I find that those that do not actually are more apt to burn out, more apt to do some of the same maladaptive and addictive behaviors that they're supposed to be treating, and in doing so cause more damage to the population. I've seen it happen. I've been doing this since 2008, so I've seen it happen a couple of times, more times than it should have. So one particular time, a person very close to me. So I've seen the damage, and I can see the damage it does to the community on how they view the agency that person worked for, or how they view the whole field of mental health and addiction therapy, just based on that one particular person's decisions to not appropriately address their issues. As far as transitioning from one case to another, well, you know, I typically have therapy early in the morning. My clients don't typically want to see me before 10:30 or 11 anyway. So I have plenty of time to transition, get my little coffee or whatever. But even if not, my issues aren't going to be the same as theirs. So it's not like it's any complications. I'm solution focused. So I'm not trying to dig into their past and figure out the whys, when, hows, and all that. I like to be like, this is what's going on now. Let's develop action plans to get through it now and put the right supports in place in order for that to occur. So.
Do you feel like you in most of your sessions, I'm pretty sure certain things show up in others as far as certain scenario, not specific scenarios, but topics, I guess you could say. Do you feel like you have a natural attraction to a certain issue, mental health issue? Is it something you attach to, you feel more passionate about solving that in your sessions? What I'm saying is, in your mental health practice, if you were to create your own practice, what would kind of be, not your mission statement, but like, I feel like this is a big problem in a part of my practice. I feel like I'm gonna attack this topic, this specific topic or issue.
In my solo practice and for my nonprofit, you know, I just like to focus. I really want to be a therapist that help other therapists, give them the tools they need to avoid burnout and to get the support they need to help their population that they work with. The agency I work for, my preferred client just happens to be mothers with addiction issues that have DSS involvement. Because I used to work for DSS and I had a couple cases that went the wrong way based on supervisory input versus the input of the therapists or counselors of DSS, social workers. And I just felt like I just want to be an advocate. I want to be a guide. I want to be a support for them regarding this issue, especially if they have addictions, have DSS involvement. I really just want to be that's really the population I prefer to work with. I have the strongest bond with. I also do parenting groups on Fridays for the same issue.
Sorry, I had to.
With the same population, like the people that go to my parenting groups have to have an addiction diagnosis, have DSS involvement.
I was trying to. Sorry, my mind is. I do a lot of reading, so I do a lot of comprehension. So I'm trying to break that down. I'm trying to understand the process. But I went on a tangent. But here's one tidbit that came up. This is in conversation. I don't even have this written down. I said I was going to do this little section. I want to have an actual professional breakdown to the people. So this podcast is about humanizing men, but specific to Black men. We are seen as it's been said, a super predator. But I want to give some shine on some light to the professionals. I think when people are helping, people naturally don't think of the helper, because it's assumed that you would either have it together or you're good enough to figure out your own stuff if you're helping all these people. If your job is a service to help, why wouldn't you have it together? Like,
Right.
it wouldn't make sense. It doesn't equate. 1 on 1 equals 2. But help break it down to the people and understand what it is actual professional mental health professional goes through. Like, what is your guys' prep before seeing a client? How do you even get clients? How often do you get clients? So on and so forth.
For my agency, you know, we stay pretty full. We're a big agency here in Durham, North Carolina, and Raleigh. So it's just a matter if I have the space, I get the client. Like I said, they're referred by DJJ, DSS. You know, sometimes just community. Sometimes you just walk in. You might have seen a commercial or seen a flyer or a card or a brochure or something. For my nonprofit, it's just really my vicinity, just where I'm at. You look up mental health near me, boom, I pop up in the top 5. Oh, I forgot the question.
How do you prep? Like, next, after they
prep.
found you, how is it like? I don't think people understand that caseload, or even if you don't work with Department of Justice or the prison system, like, you have files, you have portfolios. How do you compartmentalize each person, and how do you prep? Like, how do you get your mind right?
Okay. Well, we use what they call electronic health records. So, you know, of course, we do the intake process, the assessments. With the client, we develop the treatment plan, and I prep. You know, I like to use evidence-based therapeutic practices such as motivational interviewing, cognitive behavioral therapy modified, as I don't like the pure form of it, dialectical behavioral therapy modified, as I don't like the pure form of it, and solution-focused therapy. You know what I'm saying? You tell me what's going on. Together, we come up with an action plan to address it. I like to keep a tracker. That way I know where I'm at. I know what I'm doing. I like to build therapeutic strategies based on what might have came up in a previous session. I like to use a lot of handouts, worksheets. I like to use a lot of media, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I like to create the media the way it's directly addressing that need. I'm an animator. Well, I'm a rudimentary animator. I like to create, you know, and I bring my iPad, I bring my MacBook, you know, it depends on what I'm working with that, and it depends on how heavy I want to be that day. And we get the thing popping. You know, we do things like wellness recovery action plans. We do things like illness management recovery worksheets. There's a slew of tools all across the internet. Some I pay for, some are readily free. And then I review these things. You know, we review the treatment plan every 30 days. So they know what we've been working on, they know what we do. I always leave a copy of what we work on with them, as I simply I scan it into my phone to put into the record later. So they always have a workbook, a notebook where they keep all their stuff in. Some are really good about keeping up with that stuff. Some not so much, but it's there if they need it. And, you know, keep it moving. Don't try to regurgitate, and you avoid that by just tracking what you've done and what you didn't do. How successful was it? Do we need to readdress that particular module or that particular strategy in a different way? You know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't gonna pick it up one way. Some people get the information in different ways. For instance, I'm a visual learner. So if I see it, I got it. If I hear it, I don't necessarily get it. So a combination of both would probably be most beneficial. If I have to read it, it probably won't click as solid as if it had pictures to accompany it. So if it's a graphic novel, I'll get more out of it if it was a straight novel without pictures.
Rudimentary, okay. I'm thinking about my therapist and how I said I wanted to journal, and she's like, oh, okay, that's a good idea, and they ran with it. And sometimes she didn't bring it up as much as I thought a therapist would, because there's this idea and stigma. But I want to give a testament to her, as I think she saw that I didn't need that. I think she knew I was a pretty cerebral person, and a conversation wasn't enough. But anyway, so not to course correct, but So I have a military background. You have a military background. And so this is something I don't think I might be able to touch on. You're very, pretty much a rarity, I would say. I don't think I've pretty too many therapists that have, maybe. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, so particularly for myself, I don't even know if there's love. I have mild PTSD from one. I went to Korea back when Mr. Had his finger on the button, and we had a chemical attack. I survived the chemical attack, but we left because we wasn't prepared for that. We was going to peace treaty and be what is it? What's the person? Bureaucratic. We were going to be bureaucratic. We were going to meet with the rocks of South Korea, if I'm not mistaken, to deal with North Korea, if I'm not mistaken. And so we wasn't there for that. I don't even remember packing a weapon, so to speak. We were there as part of just down there to mend the relationship and prepare for whatever Kim had. And then that happened. And then so all I can remember, I don't even go through, but anyway, I deal with that sometimes. And but I even dealt with that with my therapist. Like I said, she was a marriage therapist and she's one of my personal therapists. We just talked about regular stuff, my codependency, relationship with my mom, relationship with women. I didn't even talk about any of the stuff that was happening in the Army, which is very odd in hindsight now I think about it. But anyway, I'm going to talk to Black men in specific being in the Army. I have a very particular, so after, not even after, before that happened in Korea, what I had in Korea, the number one thing I thought of, all this race stuff was happening as soon as I got into the Army. So Trayvon Martin happened in 2010? But when all this was happening up until 2016, I enlisted into the Army. So I had 5 years of all this police brutality being publicized. I'm Black. It's been happening all my life, but being publicized to the masses. And one of the thoughts I had when I was in basic training was, I get past this, I get to my unit, I go, because there's a lot of patriotic white boys who get in just to do it for the glory, right? Like they call themselves patriotic, but they're really just doing it for a certain amount of fame you could get, because lo and behold, all truth and told, there's green privilege out here. Like, America loves its military. So I could sense them, I see them, and I could tell, I'm not gonna go ahead and say they're racist. I could tell they've been raised around a lot of prejudice. I should go ahead and say racism and bias. The big word is bias. They're ignorant. They don't know. They just know me seeing my Black face from TV. And so I'm saying, if I go here and deploy in the Army, so to speak, in specific, I could say they teach this whole brotherhood thing. Like, we're brothers in arms. You need to protect him. When you're downrange, it's not about the fight or what you're doing and fighting for. It's not even really about your country. It's about your man to your left and your right. And so I'm sitting here thinking they're trying to beat all of this into our heads and do the soldier. It's called the soldierization process. Basically, they break you down, build you back up to make you think like you're a soldier 24/7. And so I'm thinking this, and I'm just like, y'all, this is not gonna happen in 2 months. Basic training is 2 months. Y'all is not about to have us all singing Kumbaya in 2 months for someone who's raised for 18 years off of prejudice and bias. So I'm sitting here thinking, if I go down range with this white boy from South Carolina who wears these calf-high boots and wears a cowboy hat and rocks this Confederate flag, what's gonna stop him while we're in a firefight from shooting me in the back of the head, dragging my body back to HQ and saying, hey, we just lost a good one in the fight? No, we didn't. You just killed me in cold blood because you have this bias or you're racist, and you just got away with it. No one will ever know. The government, the freaking Army's gonna have my casket on a plane with the flag over it and say he was a patriot. This Mac man was a patriot. That shit always got to me. I always had to think of that in the back of my head. And I think that was a part of me. That was a part of me wanting to get out. I was really just done with it, honestly. I just didn't want to do it no more. But in your tenure, as far as the military goes, Once again, you don't have to speak of it, but speak to specifically as a black man, because it's different. It's a different experience, though. Another thing is the issue with our race and us going into it, kind of like the Tom, you being not a tomboy, what is it? Uncle Tom. It's like, how could you, once you're woke, so to speak, for as a black person, how could you go and sign up for this white man's army and you fight for them? You fight for a country that doesn't even care for you. What are some things possibly that you may have gone through? What can you say attest part of your military tenure, so to speak? Kind of either maybe did something start some of the issues you have now? How it insinuated your PTSD now that you're out on the other end?
When I had some issues come up, like I said, that accentuated my PTSD. Some of it's still classified, so I can't really go into that. Not that I give a fuck about the military, excuse my language, but just still, they might go after my license or something. But
for sure.
I remember I was ordered to go to mental health. So I was being treated by a E9, which means they didn't have a master's degree or anything. They weren't licensed, but he was the mental health professional, a chief master sergeant, I think is what an E9 is. I can't remember anymore. And he just, it didn't seem conducive to my wellness at all. He seemed like he was always condescending. You hang in New London, I lived in Connecticut at the time. Oh, that's gang territory. Oh, you gotta stop hanging over there and stop being with them gangs. You wouldn't have all these issues you have, and et cetera, et cetera. It just, in hindsight, it just was not a good therapeutic relationship. I've seen him maybe 8 times. It just seemed like it was more anxiety ridden than helping. He was easily somebody from like West Virginia or something. Have a high disdain from people from West Virginia. Just the way he treated me, the way he treated a black seaman at the time. And that was really one of the reasons that you probably subconsciously or even consciously that accentuated me to want to be a mental health therapist. Mm-hmm. My dream at one point was to work at the VA to help veterans regarding their mental health issues. That dream is still on the horizon. I still have that dream, but I haven't been very successful regarding working for the VA, to be honest. And I think I could do a lot of good there. I think that people like you and me probably need to see more people like you and me, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Regarding getting the help. As, like I said, we don't have to explain the rhetoric. We don't have to explain the switch codes or we have to change up sometimes from our vernacular to their vernacular in order to fit in or to be deemed professional. I feel like I could be professional all day and still use all my West Coast slang, you know what I'm saying? That's not the gist of what I'm about. It's the skills, it's the action plans, it's me understanding you and meeting you where you at that's gonna get it done. Not what fancy words that come out of my mouth, in my opinion. And for what I know, just from my own experiences. So I think, to be honest, the mental health help that I received in the military did more damage than good. I remember I got out on the medical discharge, and it was based on my mental health. And they're supposed to be in some kind of program which was supposed to assist me with getting help. No follow-up. I didn't understand what the program was I was supposed to be in, and didn't get what I needed. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure if they had better wraparound support, which I hear that they have now, I probably would be I don't know, I might not even be a mental health therapist. I might be a graphic artist or something. You know what I'm saying? I think some of that probably put me on the path to where I am today.
I will say this. I got out just last year, so I was in the latter 4 years from 2016. From what I hear from the first sergeants and sergeant majors that are in there, of course they always say, well, y'all don't know how good y'all got it. Nah, I ain't trying to hear that. But my transition out, and I did an honorable, but it's what you do. For now, they do got it. I will, whatever critique I have of the Army, I will say it's about you getting out, because they do have the resources now. 2020, they got it. What you need they probably more or less got it. It's about you. I give that credit to the Army. It's about you using it. It's about you not being lazy and being a bum and getting out and using these resources so you don't be a homeless vet. Yeah. Now, my dad was in the Navy, but my relationship with my dad is trash, garbage. I'll probably never have talked to him. I'm glad I'm talking to you. Do you have any friends that you speak close to, or did you come across a couple of Army guys, a couple of soldiers?
Yeah, I mean, I had some friends that stood out, Trotter and Dixon. Whether or not I'm still connected to them to this day, no. I think I might be friends with one or two of them on Facebook. Do I talk to them like that? No. Not a good transition regarding taking that. But then again, I'm far removed. I mean, I got out of the military in 95. That's like 26 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
Yeah. So, it's a lifetime ago. But yeah, in some cases, it is a lifetime for some people. And there was some prejudice regarding that. I found that some of the people that was in the military with me probably could have been more supportive, could have been more helpful regarding what I was going through. So I feel like if they're going to sit there and stand by while I suffer, they're going to sit by and stand by and judge or not judge, you know what I'm saying? There's no reason that should be a transition that I take to a better place in life or further on in life. I just don't see any reason for me to reach out or be friends with any of those people. To be honest with you.
I was going to ask what you saw the difference, because I wanted to know what's the difference between the Navy, because the Army is a good old boy, kind of like more of a good old boys club. The phrase, what's the phrase? Not asking, don't tell, but need to know is across the military. But the Army had a phrase when the Afghanistan first popped off. Iraq first popped off. What was it? Don't ask, don't tell, something like that. The Army's big on that. I was trying to see how the Navy is in that fact, and how, because
the Navy, at least at that time, was very gay.
I was about to ask. I was about to be like.
Then I was on submarines, so that's a whole nother level of issues. But not even just taking the gay reference out of it. I don't see that camaraderie per se in the Navy. But then again, the Navy's a lot different than the Air Force. The Air Force, at least from what I thought or what I think, is a high black, and black and browns turn out to be in the Army. You don't see that turn out like that in the Navy. And you see even less of that in an enhanced service like submarine service. So on my submarine, it was me, Dixon, Trotter, Santes, and Norega. So it was 2 Hispanics and 3 blacks. The rest of the staff, 163 of them, were Caucasian, mainly from states like West Virginia. I'm sure they're from all over. Just the ones that are from West Virginia really stand out for some reason.
I was about to say some part of, embellished on some of your thoughts and some of your biases.
There you go. 100.
Yeah. All right. So what, as far as people you see, what's the demo of your clients? And that's it. Black men, women, white men, Hispanic men.
I have a mix. I have white women, white men, black women, black men, Hispanic women, Hispanic men. I mainly have black and white. Addiction issues, a high pendulum towards crack cocaine, some heroin addicts. Everybody and their mama use marijuana. I don't even address that like that. More women than men. I would say 80% women on my caseload. Mean range, 26 to 56, somewhere like that.
Okay, yeah. I like that. So expansive, wide range. So this is I think this is perfect. So to get right into it, coming straight off the military talk. So do you service? Not caveat, but add on. Do you service anyone that's in the military? Like, do you have any clients that are in the military or prior?
I live in a state that has a VA, so a VA is like 3 miles away from me.
Okay, yeah. Well, that aside, for you being someone who was, even though it's the Navy, it's different from the Army. I think we're more gung ho and hood manhood type crap.
Right.
But let's just go just men in general. I want to go into black men, but I want to go to sensitivity, right? And coming off the army thing, as far military, me in the army, there really is. They have the saying of "hua" and the soldier on. The biggest thing they drilled into our head was soldiering on, right? You could fall. They have this thing called a confidence course, and we're supposed to run up these wooden pillars that are like 12 feet tall. And once you get to the end of it coming back down, if you fall and sprain something, you're supposed to get up and soldier on. Like, hold on, give me some time. I like hurt myself. Like, I'm a human being. I know you're trying to make me some type of super soldier from a movie or something, but let's just hold on here. But I think that happens for black men in particular before we even get to the army. And I think that's a different point. But as far as black men goes, and I think we're so detached and so emotionally unintelligent and so disassociated from emotion. What I want to know is where you see that stemming from. What is that? Is it? I see it as a coping mechanism, but I want you to explain what you see it as. Is it a real issue? Is it something that needs to be addressed? How could it either help or hurt a black man even attempting to address his emotional side, sensitivity, getting in touch with it, being emotionally intelligent?
There's a lot of caveats to that question, brother. The way black men, at least, I don't like to generalize, but I'm gonna say from what I seen, at least for my generation, if our mothers raised us, they didn't really raise us. They didn't really give us the tools to navigate this world. They wanted us to be strong and silent, not to cry, not to show emotions. That to show emotions made you weak, soft, sugary, gay, faggot, whatever words you want to use, regarding that. It put an impact on your sexuality. In society, it shows you the same thing. The media that we listen to, the rap, well, at least back then, the gangster rap, the movies, you didn't see anybody show their emotions per se of the male perspective. And if you did, they never represented your type of sexuality. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of that comes into that it's embedded in us to not show our emotions. Though, I think that's switching somewhat. The millennials, I think we see a shift in that. As parents, as they parent, each generation parents differently, and a different skill set comes out of that parent, or a lack of skill set. I think the last great generation, no offense, brother, would have been mine, because they had some insight, but they also beat our ass, so we didn't do all the stupid shit that the kids after us did. You know what I'm saying?
I think there's I'm thinking of how I can take my bias out of it. Well, there's different avenues, so you guys are better for different. I think each generation is going to be better for different reasons and will be worse for different reasons.
Right.
So in that aspect, you're right. My generation, my era, millennials, have done some dumb things, and then Gen Z is doing some even dumber things. That I could be like, all right, y'all looking at us, but y'all need to look at them. We're not doing that. And that could be said for each generation.
Yeah, each generation. The baby boomers talk shit about everybody after them, right?
Oh my God. Okay. I'm like, we get it. Y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
They're the ones.
Last great generation. Okay, boomer.
And not even. They're the ones who actually messed most of the stuff.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And then they complain about us. They pay $14,000 for their college education and get mad at us because we want the government to pay for ours. Dude, I could have paid off your college damn degree 3, 4, 5 times in 1 year. No, let's not do that. You know what I'm saying? Your $14,000 is nothing compared to my $93,000.
Almost 6 figures in debt out here. And as soon as you get out with that bachelor's degree, they're not paying you what you just paid.
Right.
It's not like you can make 6 figures out the gate.
Zoom out and you look at, well, damn, I'm only making maybe $8 more than when I had my associate's degree.
Come on.
Especially in places like Georgia, you know what I'm saying? It's like they have no respect for the higher end masters and stuff like that as far as pay. I was considering moving out there one time, and the pay was just deplorable. I was like, ooh, I didn't make that since I was an associate's degree. How am I supposed to eat for that? And more importantly, how am I supposed to pay my student loans? You know what I'm saying?
Same. I started my IT journey when I was in the Army, and I got out, and I'm about to trying to finish my bachelor's in software development. Mm-hmm. But even then, I have a certificate. So IT is big on certs. So I have a certification now, and I'm about to finish another one, and I still got a clearance. I got a top secret clearance straight out the gate from the Army. So that's worth like $2-3 grand right there. Mm. And now that I'm going I'm trying to go into system administration. That job across the board is supposed to have a bachelor's. I don't have it yet, but I overcompensate. I level my stuff out with the top secret and the certs, so I can get the pay. Man, I went out in civilians. They talking about paying some $25 an hour for a system administrator with a top secret clearance and a cert. I'm like, and do what? Y'all want me to slave? Y'all want me to work 40 something plus hours a week? Doing what? Live where? Out here in Decatur on Boulder Crest? No, sir. I thought I have the real problem. I thought I wanted to live in Georgia, man. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to look at Florida. And I might look at Texas. I heard San Antonio, big IT's about to boom out there. So
yeah, I believe it.
But anyway,
Florida's crazy.
I was thinking like Orlando, Jacksonville. I heard so I googled Tampa. Tampa is not what it seems. I already know that. I figured it out. There's real hoods out. Like, it's not hoods, but it's real. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, as I digress. All right, back to the top end. We got the sensitivity out the way. Now, there's a point you made about something. So I spoke about this with the last episode, but she was a Black woman, so that was her perspective. Okay. So I'm hoping you have a different perspective about sensitivity. She couldn't speak to it, and I'm glad she didn't. Okay. But she was a parent, so to speak. So she's a Black woman. So we went in a different way. Yeah, I
know where I messed up. I'm not gonna speak on it though.
I was about to ask you because she went off. She went into a different sector. Mm-hmm. And I want to know. You say you're not gonna speak of it, but I wanted you
to speak on anything. I don't have to. I'm an open book, man.
Good, because I couldn't really ask her. I was trying to, you know what I'm saying? I'm not here to make anyone's anxiety, PTSD fluctuate. I don't want to ask her and have her, you know what I'm saying? We were here to having a conversation.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it's a difference from us as Black men being raised by single mothers. And you spoke on that. And so there's a lot of single Black mothers going to listen to this. They dating and whatnot. I have a problem with that too, personally. I'm getting in touch with a lot of single mothers. I'm like, dang, it really is bad. And it's bad on both of us. Let me just say that. Both of us. If you need to be responsible, listen, there are contraceptives out here. No one can have relations with you if you don't let them. If you aren't responsible, something's going to happen. We adults. Stop playing. Mm-hmm. But anyway, okay, that's I don't want to say it, but we gotta say it. Maybe some young mothers and single mothers are irresponsible, some aren't, but there's something happening with not just Black men, Black children being raised, being in this construct of a single mother raising a man, a boy or girl, young boy or girl. They aren't raising them right. From your perspective, let's say we're two Black men. I'll speak on mine, but from your perspective, we just know Black women aren't men, so they can't teach a man how to be a man. It just doesn't equate logically. Some things you don't know about us, some things we don't know about y'all. There's a barrier of sex. What are some things that you growing up or you see through therapy as in Black men that being raised by a single mother, these are the things. Let's go pause it too. Basically what I'm saying is this, when you speak with other Black men, and if you know that they're raised by a single Black mother, what do you see some things that are deficient in them, and what are some good things that are efficient in them being raised by a single Black mother? Basically, what are the pros and cons?
The pros is that the mothers tend to spoil. Well, I guess that's a con too. I guess some would see the pros as the mamas spoil their sons. They get them the nice shoes, the nice outfits. making sure they're so fresh and so clean. I'm gonna say the cons are they don't give them the skills as if they would give them to their daughters. They prepare their daughters, in essence, to be single mothers. They give them the skills on how to run a household. They give them the skills on how to budget and navigate this world, which they don't necessarily give to their sons, because their sons aren't going to be burdened with in many cases, not burdened with raising a single child, but there's a high likelihood that their daughter will be. So I think they give them different skill sets in regards to that in many cases. Yeah, I was gonna say that. I don't think moms have a good action plans for their sons. I don't really see a lot of times. I don't think they project further than them graduating from high school or college. Versus their daughters, they see a life plan. They see her having 2 children. They likely see her. They would like to see her married, but they know that's, we have one of the highest non-married populations who have children. So they know that she's going to have to do this world and navigate it in such a way and raise her children in such a way, in order to get through this world. So yeah, that's my view on it for the most part. But also, these people have to make better decisions for themselves. A lot of people say, "Oh, sex feels so much better without a rubber." Blah blah blah. I feel like the best sex I ever have is with a condom, because I'm not going to get a disease, and I'm not going to have an unwanted child. Feels great to me.
That is the freedom of me being able to do what I want to do right now.
There you go.
That if you're doing a deed, not having to be preoccupied with worrying about when to pull out, that's kind of freedom and enjoyment right there. I ain't got to freaking time this thing right here, right now.
Even if you try to do that, it's that pre-cum. I'm sure there's a lot of pregnancies just based on that. That's not even guaranteed. You can trust them all you want to trust them, but I know people that skip out on relationships and come right back to the relationship. There's no sign, no cue that they ever did that, and boom, they've brought you something home that you wasn't supposed to have. You did.
Man, so there's a natural problem in our community of the black man being out of the home. And so I haven't spoke to another black man. For black men and black men, of course, we have our own issues. We got the prison industrial complex. We got police brutality. We got the crack epidemic that's been shoved down our throats and implanted on our community, right? There's obviously some neglect going on. And there's a self-destructive cycle, so to speak. So I did speak about this to the other woman. I think she is a licensed therapist, but her POV on what's the insertion point of breaking the cycle. What would be your opinion, or do you have you ever thought of, all right, where could we as a people work on this cycle of the black father being absent in the nuclear family of the black family? Where do you think we could start and we would have progress and work towards us breaking this cycle?
One way to break the cycle would be to remove programs such as welfare and food stamps, modify them in such a way that they don't penalize a father being in the home. Section 8, things like that. Some people, they might be on Section 8, but they're not allowed to have another male in the home, or at least that's the way it appears based on income or whatever. So they get into situations in which they might have a child, but the father's not in the home in that way. As it's more lucrative for me to pay $140 for rent than it is for me to pay $1,400. Another thing would be that the benefits of not being married. You file taxes a certain way. You get your homegirl Juju to file your taxes. She can fix it up in such a way that you had a household and you bring home $5,800 versus $600. There's a lot of nuances in our government systems, that makes it more lucrative to not be married in that way. So the fathers aren't going to be part of these households, because in many ways we're raised that money is king, and that what's the point? then a lot of times, these women, they find themselves in situations or relationships in which they seek or want love. And so they do whatever love requires them to do, which might mean having sex unprotected or, being in relationships that are not conducive to their wellness because they didn't have a father in the home, or seen their mother with multiple men, or seen mother with even with your father who wasn't a good man or who had maladaptive traits. So you don't know what is to be accepted in a relationship. Some women, they just feel like they're better than. So they're doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. And they don't want to settle with somebody who's not making what they're making. So they might have a child with somebody. They might not stay with that somebody just because of that mind state. Or they have a child for somebody who's in a higher echelon of society. But he ain't trying to get invested in you like that. There's just so many stories, so many different scenarios that can play out. But I think for the most part, you just have to remove some of these government standards, some of these government statutes that make marriage not pretty. At least a financial tip.
Dang, it's the opposite point of view. I did hear about the father home. One other young counselor, she told me that, and I was like, dang, I didn't know that was a law. So it's always heard of. I used to, for some dumb reason in my teens, there's one comedian that says every guy has a one hood relationship. One girl who's a project bunny, you go to the hood, you play it. I was like, that was the funniest thing when I heard it, because I did, for some stupid reason. I got in dealings with her, and I used to go to her hood all the time. I walk around, you would never find the dudes in the home. And if they were, it was late, and they had to be gone he was gone by the morning during the daytime. And I never thought about it. And she told me that, and I was like, the government literally made a law to break up the nuclear family in the black household. For what reason could you not have, especially the father of the children, even if you're not married, in the home? That just it's not logical to me, other than it's another plan for our people to keep us oppressed.
Yeah, I want you to Google the history of the Democratic Party. I want you to Google the history of social work in America. I want you to Google the history of civil rights movement, integration and segregation. And once you do all this reading and research, it'll make a lot more sense to you. That they integrated us because when we were separated, we were more powerful. We had our own cities. We had our own Black Wall Streets. But when we integrated, we lost all of our power.
I've hearing that a lot. I'm watching some podcasts, not too many because I got to work on this one. I heard that from some prominent theorists and authors and writers. Some people say, of course, Malcolm versus King. Some say that was our worst decision for integrating as far as Black wealth goes, generational wealth. Killer Mike, a prominent rapper, he says his grandfather says that to him all the time, and he still believes it. But who's to say where we would be? Maybe we might be in another civil war, though, where we're already getting killed. Shit.
Are we not currently in a civil war, socially, economically?
Politically, yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Every war doesn't have to be fought with guns or fists.
Sure enough.
Best wars are fought covertly, like the ones that we're experiencing now.
I try not to be that much of a is that extreme though? I guess being that much of an extremist, because like
I consider it being aware.
Okay. I mean, to what avail? How plausible? Think about it, because like you said, it's the money thing. Us as Black people have been I think our brain chemistry, even post slavery, Jim Crow, it's been shifted, and we're real, especially my era. I would taint it. It's all about money. When I speak to some people, majority of my era generation, the number one most of them are saying is like, if it ain't about money, don't talk to me. And I'm like, y'all do realize when you die, this stuff it means not. The biggest thing I want to give out to my generation is that majority of this crap that y'all worry about really doesn't mean anything. Like, I don't think they know how much money, jewelry, and cars, how much that stuff doesn't mean. Like, money in itself isn't worth anything. It's just it's a blend of paper and cotton that you carry in your pocket.
Let me tell you how true that statement is. That is the most truest statement you ever made. When we had the first bailout, the one in, I guess it was August or whatever. If that didn't tell you that money isn't anything, what will? Because you don't have money to address this need, but yet you can come up with $1 trillion plan and give most of it to companies and stuff. Where'd it come from? It didn't come from anywhere because they made it up.
It's a social construct. Much like I ain't even going to go philosophical or go into time, but like money is construct created by this government. Gold is worth something and it's supposed to back the dollar, so to speak. A couple of years ago, the federal dollar, the Federal Reserve is about to be worth nothing, kaputs, dog feces, because we ain't got really nothing to back it, no real gold. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they would try to settle off some of America's debts with gold because we're getting too big. We all know the balloon, the $1 trillion, $2 debt. Don't quote me. Big brother's always looking, but they was trying to give some of that away, just try to stay afloat. But like you said, they came out with $2 trillion just to give it out. Man, this is not the financial podcast, but like to say how plausible is it to get our people off this money wave? Because like I was saying, my generation, it's like it's it. I can't have a conversation without someone talking about what you do for work, how much money you're making. Don't get me wrong, I'm business and economics are one of the two ways I believe how we're gonna get over it. Two ways Black people are gonna make it back in this thing: it's economics and it's information. Our biggest failure, a biggest thing that's keeping us oppressed is lack of knowledge and lack of resources. Let me not just say money. Resources is really what it is. But I think my generation hasn't messed up. All of them are talking about their CEOs and they have all these businesses they're making, which is good. Like I said, it's good, but I think they have it lost. How plausible is it to get some of our people to understand it's the love of money? It's not money. People get this kind of parable in the Bible. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil. Some people mix that up and say, oh, well, y'all asking for money in the church. I'm not going to get into that. Another church one. And what is it? Tithes and whatnot. They say, well, how can that be in your asking for tithes? The word says it's the love of money. And so I think my generation has that messed up. How plausible is that for us to get off this love of money, to get off of welfare, to get off of public assistance? Because think about it, man. If a woman, it's been going on in the hood forever. If a woman all has to do is keep popping out babies and she can get $2,500, $2,000 for a pop per kid, that's a business. I know women in the hood. I'm not gonna say I know, but the women in the hood, that's the game plan. I'm chilling. And I ain't gonna lie, some of these hoods out here, some of it's I'm not gonna say it's good, but I mean it's livable. You know what I mean? Like, it's not bad. I got money coming in, popping these babies out. What you telling me right now? What do you mean? For what fight? I don't know. Sometimes I get too existential and I'm like, are we really going to get anywhere?
I don't know. The mind state of like somebody in the ghetto, a hood rat or whatever, you're not necessarily going to change that mind state per se. You know what I'm saying? Media is too influential. I mean, I think if we could, and the media is controlled. Oh man, the media is controlled by Viacom, which is a company owned by a certain sect of people who don't care about our welfare. They only care about our demise. I won't go into specifics about that, but they make sure that we're funneled with media that only perpetuates our negative traits or only exemplifies the negative of us. When the last time you seen any program accentuated by Viacom that showed us in a positive light? All the Real Housewives are a hot mess. All the Love in Hollywood or whatever it's called is a hot mess. Doesn't mean you don't see anything exemplifying anything similar to Bill Cosby or Different World or any of those shows, Sister to Sister. Those shows that came out in the 90s, early 2000s, that showed us in a different light. You're very hard pressed to find anything like that on TV today. And maybe it is there. I don't watch TV, so I don't know. If it's not Power, I don't watch it.
I really say well, I'm cheap, so I'm not gonna buy a whole bunch of streaming services. So Stars just wasn't the one I got. You know what I'm saying? So I don't watch it. My ex used to watch it. And it's a good show. Mind you, it was good when I watched it. But I don't know. It was kind of like, anyway, it's also nice.
But it's been, besides all the intricacies of the plot or whatever, the story's never, what can you tell me? What can you teach me that I've never seen before? If you've seen The Wire, you've seen every gangster movie ever. You've seen every black gangster movie ever. You know what I'm saying?
Same thing with movies. I'm about to say, all these slave movies they keep pushing to us. It's like, bruh.
We were more than just slaves. We were kings. We were queens. We were warriors. We toppled governments that tried to conquer us. Why aren't those stories ever told?
We were pharaohs. We were entrepreneurs. We were
mathematicians and architectures and scientists, engineers. And a lot of the things that we use today were ours. Were our initial. That sometimes the patent was stolen from us. You know what I'm saying?
100%. There isn't one movie, that Hidden Figures movie. Have you seen it? It's with Taraji P. Henson, and they were basically the African American women, three astrophysicists. They were the ones who create the mathematic formula in order to help. I forget the name of the spacecraft, but to make it to the moon, if I'm not mistaken. That was the last one. If you haven't seen it, I'll say definitely watch it. That was the last one. I was like, there's a positive light showing our ingenuity and intellect. So
how well did that movie do? Probably didn't do as well as, I don't know, Avengers.
That's a whole different beast, though. I wasn't gonna say, because I watched it. Don't get me wrong. Both of the last two, I'm not gonna lie, I watched it. That's a different beast. But yeah, you're right. So the big thing about this podcast is accountability. So as I have no problem going that Big Brother. Don't get me wrong. There are things that are owed to us. I don't care what nobody says. You can call us crybabies. You can say we're beggars. You can give this bootstrap rhetoric all you want. Man, this government owes us something. Period. This economy is literally built on the backs of African descendants. Period. You guys got, what's the thing that they give out to businesses? They were giving out SBA loans now. Man, my people give out the biggest SBA loan to this country. We afforded y'all 600 years of free labor forward to an economy at which you guys now profit. You can't sit here and tell me there's not a subsidy that needs to be paid to my people. Period. I don't care what's a tax. You can call it reparations. You call it whatever you want. The Irish got it. The Asians got it. The Irish built the bridges. They get subsidies and good rates on loans and get interest and inside to loans all the time. Asians, they built the railroads. They get access to certain loans that nobody else gets. Black people, what do we get? The hood, welfare, crack. But anyway, that goes on to another tangent. But once again, accountability. I could go on Big Brother all we want. This podcast is about accountability.
Right.
And so to what extent beyond all that from the government, let's look at us. And after this point, I want to get to the last thing I want you to explain what your wellness recovery action plan. I think self-care is big. I think I explained what I do in the morning. I want you to explain what self-care is and what the wellness recovery action plan is. I think they need to go there. But before that, beat on from that and get to this last part. Before I want to let you give all the people to all your whatever website, social media, whether or not they can follow you and whatnot. But explain to people, because this wellness recovery action plan, it seems like it's just a faction of self-care. So explain to people what self-care is, and then explain to people what this plan is and how did it come to fruition. How'd you come up with it?
Oh, it's not mine. Oh, I wish it was.
Whoa.
It's definitely not mine. It's made by a lady named Dr. Mary Copeland. She was having significant bipolar symptoms, but didn't react very well to medications. So she developed a plan which addressed her wellness. Wellness recovery action plans is basically identifying what you need to do every day in order to be well. identifying the things you need to do every day, and it said in order to be good, like, take your medication, eat your food, stay hydrated. Might be to call a friend or call a peer, go for a walk, take your dog for a walk, etc. Listening to music, journaling. Then identifying your triggers, the things that cause you to break down or not do well, to become depressed or become anxious or become wanting to use. Then develop a triggers action plan for that. You know what I'm saying? Identifying your warning signs, like if you start fidgeting, does that mean something? If you start pacing, what is that a warning sign for? And then developing an action plan to address your warning signs so it doesn't get to the point where you become more crisis ridden. And then identifying your supports, who's there to support you regarding if it gets a little bit out of hand, or to help you cut off the oncoming crisis if it's to come about. Who's going to help you get off of that boat, off that plane, in order to get back on the level you need to get on to be well. And identifying your natural supports or your professional supports, identifying the medication that you're supposed to be taking and how you're supposed to take it. The things of that. If you simply Google Wellness Recovery Action Plan, you can download free plans from the website, from the internet.
I think I'm gonna do that personally. Let me even be frank and let me see. I think I kind of do that. I'm gonna be transparent. I think I kind of do that on my own. I do that in my head, so to speak. I think I might look into it. I'm like, be a little bit. I consider myself to be an intellectual, so I have a little arrogance that comes with being, so to speak, smart, so to speak. So I feel like I don't have to do the writing thing. I do journal. I got that from my therapist. I journal, but as the day goes, I don't feel like I gotta do that with every mannerism. But it seems like a good idea, though. I think I might honestly just look into it. And when
it's beneficial, especially journaling. I need to do that more. You know what I'm saying? Just get out your ideas. And it doesn't even have to make sense. It might just be words or a series of words. It don't have to make any sense to anybody. And to be honest, it don't have to make any sense to you. It's just the act of doing it, getting it out.
I think that's
some people think journaling is like writing a diary entry. In some cases, it might be. In some cases, that might be exactly what it is. But some things that might just be jotting down some ideas of how, when, why, what to do, how to do. Might just be some silly thoughts that come to mind. It might just be a list of some things you want to do for yourself or some movies you want to see. It don't have to be the daunting task that some make it out to be. I have a clients that journal and just scream by it, love by it. They share certain parts of their entries with me. And it's a way to keep track of where you at and where your head's at. That way you can keep up with your therapy and address things with your psychiatry. It may show some of the highs and lows, some of the triggers for some of the highs and lows that can be addressed in therapy and psychiatry.
Yeah, for me, it's like create your own workbook. Like if I go and read over it, I can rework some things. If something presents itself, sometimes I think my therapist gets tired of me bringing up some of the same topic. At just one thing in specific has to do with me, with relationships with women, and she just told me, and she told me to write it down. And I'm trying. I don't really read that book because I kind of have. When I see that book, it means something different. It means I'm going into this place, and so I have to mentally prepare myself before I crack that book open. But I think you're right. I think it helps me not to have a problem with bothering people, so to speak. That's another thing. But I think it helps me be self-sufficient. It helped me get off the, therapist teat, so to speak.
Right.
So, okay. I wanted to ask, what are some not pros, but what are some light that may have come from giving this plan, presenting this plan to some of your clients? How has it done them well? What are some things? But that may be too personal, I assume.
No, because it's going to be a general answer. I find that everybody that does a rap and adheres to it, utilizes it, does significantly well in therapy. Not only for themselves, but if they're going through something, it's something that I could talk to them about. Well, what is your action plan for such and such when you feel this way? Or it might be something to do with their daily maintenance. Did you do such and such today? Or did you do that today? Just being able to relate to it, you know what I'm saying? is a therapeutic, is a way for me to assess where they're at before we conduct the therapy session. I love the rap. I love talking about it. I love utilizing it. I love that it's a good support for me as a therapist working with my clients. Like, for instance, if you was my client, hey, how you doing today, Billy? You know, it's not Billy, but just in case, you know, if your name was Billy. How's everything been going? Oh, I'm doing okay. Da, 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 da. Well, have you been utilizing your rap? Yeah, today I did this, and this, and it. You know, naming some of the things they might have did in their rap. Oh, you know, I had some rough time earlier in the week, but I was able to use my rap to get back on track to help them activate their own action plan without using a professional support, because the rap is organic. It don't have to stay solid. And as you learn more skills in therapy, as you learn more about the inner workings of who you are, you modify it and you change it as needed. There's even an app for your phone, Android, iPhone.
True enough. And now that I think about it, it's something I think I'm gonna end with every episode. Therapy, it's not really a stigma, but there's a what's the word? There's a grandiose imagery, I guess, or a fantasy about therapy. It's not an end all be all. Is the one thing I'm always gonna say.
Right.
Therapy is not the solution. It won't solve all your problems, especially into completion. Therapy is about the everlasting care about your own mental health and constantly evolving into become a better human being day to day up until your last breath. Always will say that. Always will end. Let's end it with that. So I want to give you your space and your time. Much thank you for coming out to speak to me. I think it was an amazing conversation. I think with every conversation, I always learn something, and so to speak. And so I think this is what I'm supposed to do. But anyway, I want to give you your time to give the people your information where they can find you on any social platform, on any DSP. Give them your websites. Let them know how you're working, what you're working, where you're working at.
You can find out more about my nonprofit, More Than Therapy, at www.morethantherapy.org. I have a podcast called More Than Therapy. It's a good resource for those to get information regarding wellness and recovery. Mainly just thoughts of the days for you to think differently about your situation, or to think about something that pertains to your wellness and your recovery. I'm available on all social media programs as Mr. Blue _net. And that's that. I participate in online discussion groups on Clubhouse. On Clubhouse, I'm at Felipe Blue, FELIPEBLUE. I'm in a number of groups, and I facilitate and moderate some. And I work for NAMI Durham. I do discussion groups and things like that. If you find that you want some wellness and recovery support, look for your local NAMI chapter, NAMI, in order to get the resources you need for you to succeed.
Thank you very much. That's a big proponent. I want to give information. I want to get resources. Thank you very much, Mr. Blue, for your time.
Thank you.
I don't know. One caveat is Clubhouse really. So some people say it's here's the thing. I'm a techie, and for being in IT and being in tech, you have to be a futurist. You have the foresight. So as working on this stuff, I understand what these guys are doing. I understand what they're trying to do, and I have a natural aversion to it because I understand what they're doing to people, and I understand what they're doing could breed and change brain chemistry and natural behavior. Like I'm not into behavioral therapy, but I see what it could turn into, and I have a natural aversion. I think I should start telling this to people instead of me just being closed. But what are the pros to Club? I feel like Clubhouse is just, I don't know. There's a lot of people that say they have great information and they make money and all that. But the only thing that's going to happen is like what's happening with everything else, right? It's going to get popular. It's going to get over 1 billion downloads. And then all these ad services and marketers are going to cloud this space and make it to where it's going to be a premium service. You're going to have to pay to get into some of these rooms with other celebrities. You're going to have to pay to either get on stage or to moderate a room. There's definitely going to be a premium service versus regular. They're going to snatch some of the things you guys are doing now on regular, add it to premium, inflate the price, Let's just flood it with ads, and then it's gonna lose its gusto. So I understand that you should use it for now. It's a good thing, but I'm like, I could do whatever's on Clubhouse right now. Go on Facebook, find people, or just talk to people organically. Or do you see it as like a vehicle to get to resources and information faster?
I go on Clubhouse just to, network and to learn. I follow some podcaster people, like those that's been doing podcasts for a while that are considered leaders in the field, to learn new skill sets, learn new strategies, especially using my Rodecaster Pro. I follow mental health therapists and clinicians, especially ones that are diversifying their portfolio, diversifying their business in such a way to get more passive income. I find that audio is easier than text-based, like Facebook or Twitter. I think people are more, to me, it feels like podcasting, but with an audience, a live audience. It's kind of cool like that. There's a lot of people using it for evil, I'm sure. But I like I said, I go to the rooms that are purposeful for me, podcasting, mental health, things like that. Yeah, I agree with you. It will change, it will morph, it will modify. I believe that these people that develop this really just want to be bought out by Facebook for a cool billion, and then Facebook absorbs whatever they're doing. I heard Twitter's working on something similar already. You know what I'm saying? They bought Breaker, which is used to be a podcast hosting company.
Yep.
It is all those accounts. I'm glad I wasn't on there anymore. I'll be very upset. But yeah, I think audio. There's just something about audio that just really it was a smart move. It really clicks. You know what I'm saying? People who are shy are now able to be more active in such conversations because they don't have to they're not able to show their face. I think it's really good for introverts, you know what I'm saying? Quiet, shy people. I think it's really good to get information that you normally wouldn't have access to. I was in a room with Joe Rogan. I don't think I've ever would have been able to talk to Joe Rogan any day in my entire life, because where would I be in a room that he would be in order to have such a conversation? You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
I guess I'm fear mongering just because I'm in the space. I see where it might go. I'm fear mongering.
It's definitely more than likely it will go there or modify in such a way. But I would say use it now. Get what you can get from it now. You'd be surprised. I promise you, for yourself, you could likely find a lot of people to interview. There's a lot of Black men related mental health groups on there, rooms or whatever they call it. And I think that'd be a good way to get, you know what I'm saying, some more guests. You know what I'm saying? A good way to plug your podcast and get more listeners. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's a great tool. But don't let the tool use you, right?
Oh, of course. I guess so. I'm not a contrarian, but I hate bandwagoning. But anyway.
I feel the same way. I was crazy late to the Facebook club. I still can't get into Twitter. You know what I mean? I feel you. I was real late coming to the game of Instagram. But I use it for what I need to use it for, and I don't let it control me.
Just being mindful is all I need to be.
Right.
Yeah, well anyway.
Too much time on it. Some of the apps aren't even on my phone. They're on a tablet that usually stays home because it's Wi-Fi device. You know what I'm saying?
Mindfulness. Compartmentalization. I guess I need to work on that more and more. All right, my good sir. Mr. Blue, like I said, it was an amazing conversation. This has been...
Yes, sir, thank you for having me. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. You have a good night, sir.
Yes, sir. Be well.